Support for this podcast comes from the law firm of Davis Malm. Whether you're a developer, property owner, manager, or commercial tenant, their real estate attorneys know the lay of the land, not just the law. Learn more at davismalm.com.
WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. Today, we bring you episode 2 of our 3-part cannabis series. We're talking about equity with cannabis entrepreneur, attorney, and Massachusetts Cannabis Advisory Board member Laury Lucien. We get into where things stand in the state when it comes to making sure that people of color are getting a fair shot. Enjoy. Okay, so Laury, I want to start off by asking you, who are the main players in the cannabis industry right now? Who's running things and who's being left out?
So the main players in the cannabis industry right now are folks who have the ability to access large sums of capital from non-traditional methods, meaning people who do not need a bank in order to raise millions of dollars. Cannabis is still federally illegal. So in order for you to access loans to participate in this industry, you have to find money either through your friends and family or through an accredited investor. And an accredited investor is another word for saying they got mad money, you know?
Yeah.
So most of the individuals who've been most harmed by the war on cannabis, they're not individuals who have like these multimillionaires in their Rolodex.
Right.
So what you're seeing is this industry is filled with primarily, white folks. White men are the majority of the individuals who are participating in the industry. Last I checked, I think less than 4% of owners in Massachusetts are Black.
Wow.
When we know that our prisons have been littered with the bodies of our Black and brown brothers and sisters. So it's unfortunate that the number does not reflect those who've been most harmed.
Right. Something that I've been thinking about as we've been putting together this show, the cannabis industry seems so heavily regulated, right? Yet there's all this talk of equity. Something doesn't line up for me. Right? That there's this high cost of entry, and then once you jump through all those hurdles, there's still no guarantee that everything is going to work out. Do you feel like they're so focused on equity and like putting their best foot forward in that regard because they know that there's a high probability of failure?
So I think the energy of the over-regulation, it was actually a byproduct of the fact that when we first legalized, there was a memorandum that was issued by the federal government by Attorney General Cole. And it's called the Cole Memo. And basically, he created these guidelines that said, if you met these guidelines, then the federal government would not use their funds to come enforce the Controlled Substances Act against you. With that said, if they truly cared about equity, they would have ensured that there would have been money in place for social equity and economic empowerment businesses from the beginning. We passed the bill for a social equity fund last year. They haven't even issued any loans yet. So if they really cared about equity, they would have ensured that they would have given folks access to at least navigate the heavily regulated industry that was created, partially because of the fact that we had to comply with the Cole Memo.
I wonder, what are some other ways to get into the industry that maybe have a lower barrier? Right? Maybe you don't need so much capital. Is there a way you could kind of like weasel your way in,
So they always say that, during the gold rush, it's not the folks who found the gold who got rich. It's those who were selling the picks and the ancillary supplies. If you open a packaging company, a company that makes labels, if you're into marketing, you know how to navigate the Cannabis Control Commission's regulations against marketing. That's big. But for me, I'm on the fence about ever getting another license because I realize that we're living in a time where it's all about a brand. You can actually build a brand without necessarily needing a license. And the way you do that, there's basically 3 main paths to doing that. One, you can do it through a white labeling agreement with a manufacturer or a cultivator, where you have these folks place your label on a product they've already created. So that's the easiest, lowest barrier way to enter.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the private label. This one is where you develop your own product. So it costs more because you're going to have to put in the dollars into research and development. Then you approach a co-packer, a manufacturer, to have them create the product for you. The third way is that you actually find a manufacturing company, for example, who has extra space in their facility, and you rent that space from them. And then you go in there and you create your own products, and you basically operate as a licensed entity without actually having obtained your own license. I'll be launching a course about this within around June, July, to show folks how to navigate those 3 pathways. But in my opinion, it's the easiest way to get your brand into the market without having to wait 3 years and sell 4 kidneys. You know? You gotta,
Right. Yeah.
you know, you gotta
Right.
go get some kidney from your family just to navigate this licensing process.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Politics has never been stranger or more online, which is why the politics team at Wired is making a new show, Wired Politics Lab. It's all about how to navigate the endless stream of news and information and what to look out for. Each week on the show, we'll dig into far-right platforms, AI chatbots, influencer campaigns, and so much more. Wired Politics Lab launches Thursday, April 11th. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. I want to switch gears and talk about the social equity program that the state has, and that you are an instructor in, right?
I was an instructor. I was an instructor in the first cohort.
Talk more about the effectiveness of the program. Is it making a big difference in people's lives?
So the social equity program is a program designed for folks who've been harmed by the war on drugs or who lived in neighborhoods that have been disproportionately impacted. And so what the program does is it offers technical support, free technical support and education to help folks navigate the licensing process and operate businesses. Is it making a big difference? I think it empowers people. Anytime you give somebody a piece of information, it also creates a community. I know that folks in the social equity program, a lot of them stay connected. But in terms of effectiveness, you got to look at the numbers. What percentage of owners are social equity applicants? And it's very low. I spoke with one of the commissioners. I think she was saying there was about 20 social equity businesses that open. And there has to be at least 800 participants who've gone by. So 20 over 800, I mean, do that quick math. And I think part of that is because there was no money available.
That's what the new fund is supposed to address.
The
one that was passed
fund.
last summer. Yeah. Are there any stories from folks who went through that program that kind of stands out to you?
One of my favorites is Nikki John from the Heritage Club. She is the first Black woman to open a dispensary in Boston, and also I think one of the youngest. I mean, Nikki's nothing to play with, okay? This woman, like, nothing can stop her. Like, you can't put no mountains in front of her, no rivers, you name it, she will get through it. And she had an issue with her municipal process where folks were saying that she wasn't from Boston when she grew up in Dorchester because she was trying to open in Charlestown. And so she had to fight a lot to get to where she is. And now that she's open and operational, it gives me tremendous joy.
Shout out to Nikki John. So we covered the social equity program and some of the challenges of getting started, right?
Yeah.
What can state officials do to improve their efforts to make the cannabis industry more equitable?
I think about things very radically, and I think that one of the things I'd like to see done is that the state utilizes some of their property that they have and make them available to social equity and economic empowerment applicants for businesses, so we don't have to go to ordinary landlords and building owners to get our businesses. And even in New York, for example, they were giving turnkey businesses. So the state built out the retail stores on behalf of the equity applicants. So I'd like to see something like that. That would make it very easy. I like a good loan, but I prefer grants. Make grants available to these businesses. I think social equity and economic empowerment businesses should be the only ones allowed to discount in addition to medical. Or small businesses, women-owned businesses. But if you're a big, gigantic, multi-state operator, you have no business participating in discounts. And even if they don't make their properties available, give tax incentives to landlords so that they're incentivized to work with social equity and economic empowerment applicants. Also, packaging. The packaging regulations are out of control. Like, some of the packaging out there, they're not just child-proof, they're Laury-proof. Like, I can't open them. By the time I open them, I need 3, 4, 6 blunts just to deal with the anxiety and stress. So
Jeez.
I think it's ridiculous that we need to have these packaging laws. These regulations annoy me because they are upholding a stigma that we are trying to kill. Then the stigma is that cannabis is horrible. It's this dangerous drug that will cause you to become a menace to society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's time that our regulations reflect that the harms that we are afraid of are no longer in existence.
Perhaps never even were.
They never existed. Thank you for saying that. They never existed.
I want to look into the future, right? I feel like that's where, us as Black folks, people of color, that's where a lot of our optimism lies. What's next? What's next for Black folks and other people of color in this industry?
So I'm hoping that with access to funding, we'll see more companies opening up. I also hope that the companies that are currently open are able to stay open and to thrive. I'm hoping that as this industry continues to unfold, a lot of the stigmas that are prevalent begin to be destroyed and removed. I'm hoping that there can be a lot more information about the medicinal aspect of cannabis so that folks can access it as an alternative to some of the drugs that they're currently taking. And I also hope that this ushers in a new era for plant medicine and alternative medicine.
On that note, Laury, if there is someone listening to this right now and they're interested in the cannabis industry, where can they go to learn more?
So you can go on the Cannabis Control Commission website to learn more. You can contact me, LauryLucien.com, or, it's Laury Lucien at most social media platforms, because I will be launching courses late June, early July on how to access the industry without necessarily needing a license.
Understood. Well, Laury, thank you so much for joining us on The Common. I really appreciate you taking the time.
My absolute pleasure. I'm so honored and grateful to be here. Thanks for thinking of Big Mama.
For sure. That's cannabis entrepreneur, attorney, and Massachusetts Cannabis Advisory Board member, Laury Lucien. And that's part 2 of our cannabis series. Tomorrow is our finale with Devin Alexander. He's the co-founder and CEO of Rolling Relief, a cannabis delivery company in Newton. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. Hey, if you're trying to get into the cannabis industry and feel like, you're having a tough time, hit us up. Let us know what you're going through. You can hit us up on Instagram at WBURTheCommon, or you can send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.